What up, Vigilantes? Thank you for tuning in. Today we have another awesome entrepreneur in the Bitcoin space. You heard that right, in the Bitcoin space. Now, guys, as you guys know, we love privacy coins, but you guys know that I'm personally very geeky and I love entrepreneurship. As you know a little bit about my background, I was involved with the Bit Angels, helping them out with investor relations back in the day. And I got to see a lot of the early Bitcoin startups. And as part of that experience, something that would geek me out was my desire to see businesses built on the Bitcoin blockchain. What do you mean, Rafael? What do you mean businesses built on the Bitcoin blockchain? Well, that was possible. We always knew that that was possible, but we had civil wars within Bitcoin where we split up into different factions between people saying, no, you can't do that on the blockchain, on the Bitcoin blockchain, and others saying, no, you can. So there's a community that continued that tradition of building on chain. And these two communities are best seen in Bitcoin Cash and BSV. And today I have the CEO of one of the coolest projects in the space. If you're not familiar with HandCash, I highly recommend that you download the wallet and geek out for a little bit. Hear this out, guys. HandCash serves as a portal to all of the Bitcoin startups on the BSV blockchain. You open up the wallet, and right away you see your access to every single application, or most of them. Alex will get into it in a little bit because this is all very new technology. So we're embracing, in BSV, people are embracing Bitcoin's computational power. And this like geeks me out, guys. I really need to share this with you guys because, as you know, we're capitalists and we will always be reverent to what the masses want. And we will do what they tell us not to do. We will look where they tell us not to look, and we will research what they tell us not to research, right? So I have to tell you guys these things because no one else is really talking to you guys about how awesome Bitcoin's protocol is in its original design at scale. Alex, Agut, thank you for being with us. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, and thanks for the introduction.
Awesome. So how did you get into Bitcoin? When did you get into Bitcoin? And what led you to where you're at now?
Well, my first contact with Bitcoin was around 2012. Somebody in a forum sent me some Bitcoins, and I got into an exchange. I wanted to buy more, but the price dropped. I got scared, and I sold everything in 2012. And then in 2015, we had a startup with my current co-founder. I met him in a startup that we founded like in 2014 or so. That was called Joby. It was a very cool startup for sharing economy and all that stuff. And we were handling payments that were relatively small. And the issue was that the fees with current payment methods and the banking system were so high that we were looking for alternatives. And I knew about Bitcoin, and I'm not a programmer. I can code a little bit, but my co-founder Rafa, he is a very good programmer, and he was looking into Bitcoin, and he said, "Oh, forget it. This is too complicated for us to maintain and too complicated for users to use." So we discarded the idea in 2015. So in 2017, we were already working in somewhere else, and we were started revisiting the idea of Bitcoin, and we already by that time we already had released a few apps that not Bitcoin apps, but apps in general, like Pokemon Raider. We had the most popular Pokemon Go Raider. Over there, we got shut down by Google with a cease and desist letter. That was fun. And we had a few of these toy apps that were very successful because they had only one or two screens and they were super straightforward. We have always been focused our products and our design system in ease of use. So when we saw that in 2017 Bitcoin was still basically the same, we saw an opportunity for us with what we have learned in the past years to actually do something about it and actually make it work as cash. And the first iteration of HandCash of this idea was that we already had we had a contact swap app that you basically could just touch a couple of phones and you could swap your contact information. We saw that in Black Mirror, and we recreated that up. And the cool thing was that Rafa built a nice feature that overrides some security things from Android that allowed us to actually do use the NFC as we intended to. So that was pretty cool. And we said, oh, what if we could actually send Bitcoin by just tapping two phones? I mean, that wouldn't require legacy addresses, that wouldn't require all of that. And we just wanted to give it a try. Turns out that we could. And the first iteration of HandCash was centered around sending money, by tapping phones. And you could actually do it in a secondary way with the handles, with the handle system, because we didn't want to use the legacy addresses. So basically, we gave every user a handle, and we did all the magic in the background, and you could send money through handles. And that was very revolutionary. For us, it was, very easy to do, but seems like nobody in crypto wanted to actually do that, because they wanted to, you have to use Bitcoin as it's, as it is. You have to use this kind of very geeky apps with legacy addresses and all that stuff. So for them, it was like a sacred cow that they were not willing to touch UX wise. And we came from other sectors, so we didn't give a shit about their sacred cows. So
I love that. See, that's the thing, guys. Something that I've always described BSV as like being very irreverent in its extreme capitalist approach. Like, no, we're just gonna try things out. Okay, I'm sorry. So keep going.
No. And no, that's a very good point. And yeah, we since then we filmed a very small video of a friend and Rafa, and they were tapping the phones and sending money with Bitcoin. And we released that video on Reddit and Twitter, and it exploded. Like, everybody went wild, like, oh shit, this is awesome. And at the time it was, I think the first iteration that we had internally was BTC, but this was the end of 2017. So the BTC network became very unreliable for us for what we wanted to do. We couldn't do instant transactions. So we started looking somewhere else, and we decided for Bitcoin Cash, because at the time, Bitcoin Cash looked like the best alternative and also had a very cool brand. And we really liked Roger, for example, too. So there were a lot of businesses actually investing in Bitcoin Cash at the time. So we thought it was kind of the perfect match. And also the technology was fantastic. And that's how we started with Bitcoin.
Okay, so it wouldn't work in BTC. And for those watching, could you please explain why?
Oh, there are a few things that, we wanted to use Bitcoin because both Rafa and myself, we are very into branding. We give branding and marketing, a lot of weight, more than anybody else in our sector, I think. And we really wanted to make it work with BTC because it's the king of the category, of the crypto category, and it makes things go downhill, instead of an uphill battle for like, oh, but you're using BSV, that's a scam, whatever. So with BTC you shouldn't have that problem, but the thing is that it was very limited. I mean, for example, we were the first crypto wallet to actually get rid of confirmations. We realized that if you follow the recipe that's in the white paper, you don't need it. And I don't know why, everybody kept relying on confirmations since day one, but in the white paper, it doesn't say anything about confirmation. So we got rid of that concept, and we've never had an issue with zero conf, never. And we are processing this last month, we processed over 500,000 transactions, all zero conf, and there was no issue. And we couldn't do it because of that, and also because BTC, for two reasons. BTC has a cap of the block size is for 1 megabyte, and the problem is that as it has, the problem is not that the cap is 1 megabyte, because many of the blocks in BSV are smaller than that. The problem is that, so your transaction enters in the block, then there's like a fee raise and there's like a market for fees. So the problem is that you have to actually um, bribe the miners, to say. You have to actually kind of bribe the miners to actually put your transaction in the block. And
replaced by fee, yes.
Yeah. And the problem is that their network is very hobby grade, and it has a lot of nodes that they are not mining. And the problem is that they cause a lot of issues and double spend. They open opportunities for double spend much more easier. And BTC just doesn't work. I mean, we were looking at Lightning, but we really hated the concept of Lightning, and we thought it was just a tool for transferring the power from the current financial infrastructure or financial powers to the Silicon Valley companies. It is not about decentralization or all that crap. And we didn't like Lightning, so we ended up with BCH at the time.
So how was your experience with BCH? And also, okay, so that's my first question. How was your experience with BCH?
At first, it was great because the technology works. It still works. The problem was that we were trying to build a serious company and build big things with that, RSDK, etc. And the BCH, especially the ABC network developers, they wanted to change too many things too often. And we felt really unsecure on the roadmap of the changes that they were willing to do, because we would have to rewrite many of our things. And we just didn't want to be in a, in this kind of ecosystem controlled by developers that are going to be moving stuff all the time. And you cannot just trust that. It's like if you're trying to build an online game, and then suddenly the TCP/IP protocol changes, or HTTP calls, or you cannot afford that as a business. So at first it went great, but then it was very obvious when the split came that it was a political split in this particular. Well, it was technical split, but also I think it was more political than technical. But for from our point of view, we valued very much more the technical side of it, of just keeping things stable.
And by stable, you referring to a fixed protocol, correct?
Yeah, well, the protocol is fixed. That doesn't mean that the software of the protocol is not changing or upgrading or whatever. But the thing is that you are relying on some network rules, and those network rules are the ones that will be applied every time. It's just a matter of making them work at scale. And right now, we haven't found a ceiling on BSV, and the BCH network, Ethereum, BTC, all of them have found their own ceilings. And we haven't found a ceiling on BSV yet, and that's pretty cool.
Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think it's because it's BSV. This is not a competition of who's the leading network node provider or whatever. We only have one. We don't give a shit. I mean, it works, and that's what businesses want. And it's it's very simple. It scales. They remove every single limit that the BTC network had, and BCH network still has some of these limits. And it's great because it allows us to do all the things that we do right now. We handle 500,000 transactions per month currently, and some of those transactions are very, very input-output intensive, like in terms of UTXOs and some kind of scripts that we use and stuff. And those things are not possible with the other networks because of their limits. And actually, for example, the speed limit is a big issue with nano payments, and BSV recently they removed it completely. So that's pretty cool.
Please explain. I mean, I know everyone's heard of micro payments, right? And Satoshis. So what is this nano payment that you're talking about? What is this?
We realized we had to come up with a new word for the kind of payments that we were seeing, because when you talk about micropayments, people already have in mind, a micropayment inside a game. is like I pay a quantity between $1 and $10 from my pocket to the developer, and that's it. And what we were doing is kind of an horizontal economy where a lot of pennies are going around. And for example, I'm paying you every time I tap this button on a game, I'm paying the developer half a cent, and I'm paying everybody in the ranking, like a few satoshis depending on their ranking on that game. So there are a lot of things like this that you are paying maybe 100 people at the same time, but the whole transaction is still maybe a couple of cents. So we had to come up with a word for payments that were under $1, and high frequency horizontal economy. So we came up with this new term, nano payments, and I think we want to be, we already are the leaders in nano payments. It's a category that we created for ourselves. We are leading it, and other companies are jumping in that category, and that's great because that only validates our concept.
And I see that you guys have a term, an actual term for it. It's called the Doodle, right?
Yeah. Well, that's an evolution of all of this. I mean, the natural conclusion of the evolution of what we are doing, we basically want to become the money for apps and games. Okay, so we are focused on apps and games. We are not focused on retail payments or buying stocks or token trading or any of those things. We want to be HandCash. We want to become the ecosystem for apps that use nano payments. So it was pretty obvious that we are using raw Bitcoin, and that's great because it scales fantastically. We know how to scale handling UTXOs and all that stuff, but we don't know how to scale tokens. There are many token protocols. We still don't have stable coins, and there are a lot of unknowns with other stuff that's not raw Bitcoin. But we know that we have this great token that's called BSV, and we can use them. They're satoshis. So basically, we just rebranded them in a way that doesn't sound geeky, and we can sell it as a currency for app and game developers for their apps ecosystems and esports and all of that. And so far, we have received a very positive response from them. Maybe not so much from the hardcore Bitcoin geeks or whatever, but that's happened us. Since we started with HandCash, we've been killing sacred cows, and this is just another one. We do not want to say that we are using Bitcoin or BSV or Satoshis or any of this kind of thing. We don't even want to have to mention the word crypto. So, Doodle is part of making that possible for us.
Right on. So a lot of people watching this right now are probably asking themselves, what do you mean zero transactions on the original Bitcoin protocol at scale? A lot of people would think that doesn't make sense and it's not possible. Could you please explain that?
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't call them zero conf because it's you really have one kind of confirmation, which is, well, for example, the way we handle transactions. Okay, so just so you know, there's one API that's called Merchant API, and that's built by the node developers from Enchain, and that's a very cool thing. I think it's one of the best inventions in Bitcoin since ever. And so what that allows us is that we are only connected not to random nodes that then might be or might not be mining, but to actually pick and choose. We are connected right now to 3 different miners, and we know they are miners. And so basically, every time we broadcast a transaction, we broadcast it to the 3 of them. And the first one that gives us the thumbs up that, hey, we will include this in a block. And if the fee is the minimum relay fee, that means that it is going to be seen by all the other miners in the same block. So it's green light. It's approved. It's going to be in the block. So we don't have to worry about it. I mean, it's super. I don't know if it's 100% safe, but it's the way we do it, and we handle, as I told you, 500,000 payments like this. And we don't have to worry about waiting for confirmations and all the stuff. And it's very cool because our average transaction time is around 700 milliseconds, and that's it. And it's confirmed, and we don't have to worry about anything else. And that's what allows us to actually build these kind of very cool apps like Haste, where people are like payment. We also process payments in parallel because we have a cloud signing. Well, we have a few techniques that we have innovated that nobody else in the industry has, and they allow us to actually have a kind of performance that not only scales but actually makes some apps possible only in our on our infrastructure.
So we were talking about how you guys were able to step away from using the legacy addresses of Bitcoin, and now you guys are using the how does it go? It's
handle.
The handle, yeah, $ your name. And I've noticed that you guys do something called pew pew pew.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, we were building a stress test app for our SDK. And I just realized, hey, what if we import your friends list from HandCash, because we have a friends list? It's very cool. I mean, it's something that we take for granted in HandCash, but nobody else in the space has. It's kind of, like Facebook or whatever. And you import your friends list from HandCash into that particular app, and you just shoot your friends a few cents. And it's very cool because in a few seconds, you can pay 3,000 or 4,000 people at the same time if you want, and in just a few seconds. And the fee is super, super, super low. So we just wanted to stress test we wanted to stress test our SDK, our infrastructure too. We wanted to see it in the wild and see many people doing it all the time. And see if we can keep up with that, and our infrastructure doesn't have an issue with that. And also, I think it's a very cool showcase of the power of the network that we are using, because you cannot do that or a game that's called Haste that is in our app gallery. You cannot build like Haste with Lightning or with any other blockchain. That's guaranteed.
Right on. So if you want to we can do a pew 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 in the description below. I mean, if you guys want to if you download HandCash and put your handle down there, we can send out some pews at you guys. Sure. So yeah, all right. So what about games? You guys are really into games, and you open up HandCash and you have a portal to a bunch of games, and other things. I mean, is there a portal to Twitch as well from HandCash?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
You can sign up into Twitch, just one tap, and you don't have to write down 12 words or any of these things. I mean, that's one of the cool things is that if you use our platform instead of other platforms, it's much easier to onboard people because they don't have to worry about losing their seed phrase and all that crap.
Okay, so that's a big innovation in crypto that you guys put together, and that's something that was my next question. So I'm happy you brought it up. So you guys were able to configure the private key in a way that is different and more user-friendly for the average person. Could you please explain this?
Yeah, sure. We wanted to remain non-custodial, and that was very important for us. And we also wanted to have the capacity to do cloud signing, because we had some limitations if we had to sign the transactions on the user's device or in the web browser. That was something that we wanted to get rid of. So we basically are applying a technique that's called threshold signatures. Well, the whole system is much more complicated. Threshold signature is just one of the pieces, but it's the key piece here. So what it does is that when you create your HandCash account, there are two fragments. There are two fragments of a key that are created, and they are only created sent to a different company at the same time. I mean, we have two companies, HandCash, and there's another company that doesn't have any legal tie with us, and even we have assigned an agreement that we cannot share our keys from between our companies. So basically, the user registers, I think it's the phone number with HandCash and the email address with this other company. It's in the same onboarding, so people don't even notice. But the cool thing is that every time as a transaction is sent, or you want to recover your funds or whatever, you are just, the user is asking a company that, hey, you have something that belongs to me, and you have something that belongs to me. And the user is the only one that has access to both as parts of the key. So that's what makes the system non-custodial. I mean, legally non-custodial. Some want to call it that, you can be self-custodial, or there's, you want to go whatever you want. But the thing is that it's non-custodial from the regulatory perspective. And it's very cool because if HandCash were to be hacked, for example, they wouldn't have access to people's money either. And if you don't have any key to lose, and the other company, the same thing. If they get hacked, there's nothing to actually steal. And in case HandCash and the other company got hacked, we have there's some. I don't want to enter into details. It would be irresponsible for me. But let's say that you cannot do that with both keys if you don't know a few more secrets. And so it's super safe. It remains non-custodial, and that's very cool from the regulatory perspective. And even if it were considered in the future custodial, it's still safer than having the raw private keys in your server, because that's a jackpot that attackers could actually be tempted to go for it.
Okay, great. So just to reiterate a couple things, before we backtrack and talk about things that have been mentioned, I would take it then that HandCash is not a place where you would store a ton of money. This is, it seems like this is a place, this is a wallet that you use to interact with the Bitcoin SV network and with all of its apps, games, social media platforms like Twitch. And to kind of clarify, so there are other ways of accessing these apps, right? Like, for example, like Twitch on BSV. You can access it through Money Button. You can access it through Relay X, but you can also access it through HandCash. And each of these wallets, Bitcoin SV wallets, serve as portals into all of these apps, which is a very different way of doing Bitcoin, of doing crypto. And they're all using the same unit of account, BSV. To reiterate, Doodle is just a nano transaction, so it's even smaller than a Satoshi. Correct? Am I right?
No, it's not smaller than a Satoshi. Nothing can be smaller than a Satoshi. In fact, just one Doodle is 500 Satoshis of BSV.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yeah, but we use it for we want basically. I don't know if you played FIFA or NBA 2K or any of these games that you can they have a virtual currency which you can purchase some other cards from other players, etc., or more skins for the game or whatever. So when you're playing that, you don't have the fiat equivalent to what are 10,000 VCs for a LeBron James card. You already know if it's expensive or if it's unexpensive by the context, because you've been playing the game. You know how hard it is to earn some of these VCs. So we had the idea of, what if we create this virtual currency Doodles that it's just pure Bitcoin that we know scales and it works, and we can serve it. So instead of just serving one particular game, we can extend that to every app and game. So you have a universal way of measuring or pricing things in games and apps. So it's like having a virtual currency that's cross-app. And we thought that was a very cool concept, that it's something that we can build with Bitcoin. So we are more aligned into actually doing that than just trying to replace fiat for, with smaller fees. We think we can do much more by using this technology that way.
That is awesome. So what do you guys see for the future of HandCash? And also another question is, what other games are there? Because I know Haste is very popular, and I know you guys created other games. What other games are we expecting to jump on the
Well,
HandCash.
first, those apps are not created by us. We are only providing the platform and this portal, as you call it, what we call the HandCash App Gallery. But basically, it's developers. They use our SDK to build their apps, and we have Haste. It's a very cool game. We also have BSV 2048, which is the classic game of 2048. It's pretty cool when you add payments and a ranking system, etc. You have also, well, Peer Game is an online casino. It's super cool. It's very well built and it works really well. And you have instant payoffs. You don't have to deposit money into the platform. So there are very cool things about all these games and apps. We have in total, I think there are 14 apps that are featured in the app gallery, and there are over 70 in the works. And I think I don't know, we really like what we're seeing. I mean, with just 14 apps and the amount of users we have, the volume of transactions we are seeing, it's incredible. And just imagine that at scale with 1,000 times more users. I mean, that would be bonkers. It would be absolutely great.
Yeah, guys, now you see why you guys needed to learn about HandCash and why I brought Alex Agut here, because a lot of people in crypto are telling you, don't look at BSV. Don't look at BSV. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. There's something here very valuable. And as a big blocker, I always knew that this was possible with Bitcoin. And these are worthy experiments that we should embrace, that we should look into, and that we shouldn't just shun just because XYZ BS excuse. We should always be very critical and strive to be as objective as possible. Okay, so what do you see as so the future of HandCash and BSV? Where do you see this going?
Oh, HandCash, we don't want to overcomplicate what we're doing. I mean, we are going to add fiat ramps in the next month or month and a half or so. So it will be very easy to actually take money. Top up and cash out and stuff from fiat, and that's something that we actually need to have what we call a complete product. But beyond that, we are not going to overcomplicate it. We are just going to expand and make our products much better, and the SDK with a few more features and functions, etc. But we don't want to overcomplicate that. We want to build something that's stable. That's very easy to understand for both users and developers, and just expand on that. And for BSV, I think it's just a matter of, I think all these crypto hype cycles, at some point they're going to get very old with people, they might be making some people may be making money now. But the problem is that when you are in the top of the hype cycle, that's when most of the people get in and they get wrecked over and over again. And also I think all these NFT bullshits for millionaires that, I think 99% of them are bullshit. I think once all of that gets old, I think we will see that there are just one or two networks with actual substance and businesses being built on, and one of them is BSV, if not the only one. And with being honest, if I were, I really understand why some people don't want to look at BSV, because all YouTubers say that, oh, BSV is Craig, that's a scam. Craig, that's a scam. Calvin, whatever. I met them personally, and I'm pretty good friends with them. And it's just that they hate them so much, and there's no real, in my opinion, there's no real substance. But I understand why people are very negative inside of crypto against BSV. The thing is that we actually, at some point, it became a very uphill battle for us. I mean, we've never been into this crypto shit. We don't give a shit about crypto. We want to build what we want to build with HandCash. We care about HandCash. So the best option for us right now is BSV. We've been looking elsewhere constantly to see if we can get the network effect going, because it would be helpful. With BSV, it's kind of an uphill battle at some point. but
You
the
mean in terms
technology
of
is,
marketing, correct? In terms of marketing.
yeah. I mean, if we were on doing this thing on something called lining, we would have already tens of millions of users, given the product that we have. So it's kind of tough in that regard, but we also know that it's just a matter of time that everything gets old. I think it's going to get old very quickly, and once all this noise goes away, they will see that there's still one ecosystem of businesses that are still up and running, and that's BSV. And I think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, it's proof of work, right?
I mean, the technology
does it work?
Yeah, I mean,
who
the technology
works it better? Yeah.
I mean, hey, the technology is so damn good. I mean, the technology is so damn good that it's my business. I don't want. I know that marketing is super important, but that's why we want to get out of this crypto conversation, because it's not helping us. But the product is great. We just don't want people to think, oh, but that's not using BTC. No, our target audience should not care. I mean, if people care more about the ticker name than the actual value that we provide, then we are all fucked.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that a lot of people in crypto, it's almost like they've been indoctrinated to think politically, and they think that this is a political race where
and they want to defend their backs.
Yeah, it's like my team versus your team.
Yeah.
And I'm a capitalist, and I'm an investor. I have teams. I love different teams because they provide me with different user experiences. Hey, look, I have Gunther up there. That's from Monero wallet, Monero. I love privacy. So yeah, Gunther, Monero, all the way. You know what I mean? Like, let's see. More. I love privacy, but that doesn't mean that I can't see the value of having a global ledger like BSV that allows me to interact with everyone and cooperate in terms of games, social media. Yeah, it's not a privacy coin by default like Monero, but it allows me to do things in the market that I can't do in a protocol like Monero.
Oh, you would be surprised to know the degree of privacy that we have at HandCash.
All right. Well, so I didn't want to talk about that, but if you insist, we can talk about privacy on HandCash, privacy on BSV if you want. Sure, because I know it's different than Bitcoin BTC.
No. It's not just BSV. It's HandCash.
Oh, HandCash. Okay, go for it. Tell us what's up.
Okay, BSV and BCH and BTC kind of always work the same. I mean, you have some inputs, you have some outputs. Okay, so if I want to send you 1,000 satoshis, maybe I get a UTXO that's 2,000 satoshis, and then I send one for you, and we pay for fees, and then the rest it comes back as change in a change address to myself. So for every transaction via HandCash, we create. I mean, if I want to send you 1 cent, maybe I take UTX. Maybe I take 500 UTXOs in the value of I don't know, $10. We create a transaction with that, all of those UTXOs with different addresses, and we send them to you if you're in HandCash, to many different addresses, and you don't know from the outside. Someone looking at the block explorer, they don't know your balance, they don't know how much money was in the transaction. You have total privacy from the outside. I mean, we are not doing things with anonymity. We are not dealing with anonymity. Everything is logged in HandCash, whatever, so it's not anonymous. But nobody outside of you and your transaction records knows what's going on.
So
and that's something that we are very proud of.
Dude, that's really cool. So because the wallet architecture, and this is something, thank you for bringing this up. I really want to ask you this. So something that happened with Segwit, right, is that they removed the chain of digital signatures onto an extended block, which is page 2 of the white paper that shows you literally Satoshi drew a diagram how the chain of digital signature goes from transaction to transaction. You still have that unscathed, untouched in BSV, and to some degree in Bitcoin Cash as well. That allows you to do things within the wallet architecture that you can't do anymore in BTC. Can you please explain that and expound on that? Because that is something that the use of that chain of digital signatures between wallets, what does it afford you? What does it provide you as
being honest, Rafael, I wouldn't give you a good answer. I'm not the technical lead in my team, so I understand Bitcoin, but I don't really understand SegWit in a technical way. So I don't want to talk through my I don't want to talk from my ass.
Fair enough. That's awesome answer. Thank you so much. That's thank you. So all right, so you have all these UTXOs moving from HandCash wallet to HandCash wallet, and that provides a level of anonymity, which that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, it's almost like something that I've been harping on recently is the importance of not being tribal, but at the same time, I do love maximalists because as an investor, if you're a maximalist, I love you because it just shows me that you're gung-ho and you're committed, like a committed army on their mission. And I wouldn't want someone that's half-assed about their coin. You understand what I'm saying? So it's almost like, sure, I am not personally a maximalist, but I love maximalists.
I think we are maximalists by default, but we don't consider ourselves as such in a way that we're not haters of any other ecosystem or coin or whatever. I mean, if it works better, we will use it. If it doesn't work better, we won't. So the thing is that we actually became maximalists for simplicity. We have, as I told you, Rafa and myself, we have always specialized on making things very easy. And we saw that, all these wallets, the crypto wallets, they always had like, you can have like 60 different assets or 100 assets or whatever, and they call them assets and super hard to move, and the legacy addresses and the fees were super high, and it's all very geeky. So we said, can we just build a money app that uses one of these technologies in the background, and nobody knows that we are using this kind of technology in the background, and we just build something that's absolutely great. And that's our take. So I think we are maximalists by default because we just want to simplify the experience for a user.
Definitely. I think as an entrepreneur, you really have to look at the landscape and choose the protocol you're going to build on,
Let me add one more thing to that. And also that allows us to actually become specialists on creating a great SDK and a great ecosystem and handling UTXOs and parallelization and invent all these patent pending technologies that we have. Because we have been focused on one technology instead of just trying to make a quick buck by trying to become the number 300 wallet in crypto. We just wanted to create something unique with one particular technology and excel at that. And I think that's the key of our early success.
So I know something that people right now watching this are dying for me to ask you, and it's, why didn't you build on Ethereum?
Oh, shit. Because the fees were too high. We didn't like the state management thing they have. We prefer the UTXOs for what we're doing. And we also saw that they had trouble scaling, and that all of that were promises that we are going to scale it by overcomplicating the layer instead of. Here's the thing, Rafa and myself, we have a very particular way of seeing things, I think, because we came from outside of crypto. So we don't think that if the base layer is broken, you have to actually add layers and layers on top of layers to actually fix it or to make it work.
Yeah, it's like whack-a-mole. You're playing whack-a-mole. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't like that.
You overcomplicate stuff, and you add many more moving parts that could go wrong. So I think the problem with Ethereum is that the base design is not good. It doesn't scale, and every time they try to make it scale, they failed, and we've seen over and over again. So. In a few years after done with an NDA that I signed, I might tell a very cool story about that, and let's see how it plays out. But a company that's super over invested in Ethereum, and we knew that it wouldn't work for what they wanted to build, and actually they failed for actually building the thing that we actually could build in BSV, which is this Connect technology, the SDK that we have.
I'm not going to ask you anything else because you just said you're
I'm under NDA.
Okay, that's cool. I respect that. That's awesome.
We'll see how that plays out.
Okay. But I mean, wow, you gave us a lot to think about. So you have nano transactions. You have handles. You are the portal to a bunch of different applications. And you're keyless. That's something else. You don't have to like.
That's a big one because we were not keyless from the get-go, and the problem was that every single day we got a number of emails of people that lost their words, and not just newbies but Bitcoin experts, and they got frustrated and they got angry with us because they lost the keys, but they got angry with us, and to a degree they were right because we were actually putting a product in the market that was not ready for actual humans to deal with. Most of the time, the biggest security threat or the biggest security issues come from your users. So right now we fixed that, and we're very happy we are not getting those emails anymore. That's very cool. It was very tough for us to actually, realize that every time people wanted to use our product, in a few weeks they just lost the money. I couldn't sleep well at night, to be honest, knowing that we had that solution. So we've been working hard to actually invent this keyless system. We are very happy about that.
Yeah, congratulations on that, because when it comes to key management, the cryptography is never the issue. Is really the people
cryptography is fine. The problem is that you are relying on people writing them down on paper, and maybe with some typos, and maybe they lost the paper or they hide it somewhere inside a book or whatever, and they just throw the book away. And this kind of things happen more often than people think.
Yeah. So for what you're doing, this is phenomenal because it's easy to use. So can you explain a little bit more as to like the process of going keyless with HandCash? So let's say someone jumps into HandCash after watching this. It's like it's almost like it feels like a two-factor authentication like process, correct?
It's kind of, yeah. You're basically, you only have to verify your email address with ourselves, the phone number with HandCash and the email address with MatterCloud, which is our partner trust holder company, we call them. We cannot share the keys, but for them it's just like they're logging inside any regular app where they need to add their email address and then the verify through an SMS code. That's it. It's super easy. I mean, we wanted to take Bitcoin first to a phase where it feels normal to use, and then we can expand on that. But we have to actually take Bitcoin from this geeky thing that's super complicated and very unsafe to actually a much safer experience and more normal, if you want to call it that way. For example, people want to send money to their friends, not to addresses. People want to log in, and they don't want to go to the book and write 12 words or whatever. So we want to bring some normalcy to Bitcoin first and then expand.
Yeah. So a hacker would have to, if they wanted to get into your HandCash, would have to kind of SIM swap you to get your access to your phone number, and then they would have to
the email address,
figure out your email address. So I mean, it is doable, it is possible, but then again, HandCash is not the place where like you would want to spend, store your life savings.
We always tell people. No, we always tell people that we think it's super safe. Because also we don't rely only on the user losing their Google address or whatever. But Google itself, if you try to log in with a Google account or Gmail or whatever, excuse me, they also have their own security layers. So to check that, hey, authenticate with another phone to give access to this new device because I don't recognize all these kind of things. So we rely on those kind of extra layers too. But anyway, the thing is that for 50, $100 or whatever, nobody's going to mess around with your doing all that work for $50. And what we tell users is that although HandCash is very safe, because most of the people, the security issue again was that they were losing their words, and they're not losing them anymore. Although you might think, although it's super safe, don't treat it as a bank, because we are not a bank. We are, all we do is aimed at being great for small amounts, in for payments, for saving funds, for whatever. Everything's around small amounts. For example, we don't provide an insurance. No crypto wallet provides insurance, but we don't. So we don't want to give people the false security that even though this is safe, this is not a bank. This is not where to keep your savings. This is just a very convenient way of actually using Bitcoin in apps and games. That's it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And in a sense, you're safer than, the biggest, from what I've researched, the biggest victims of SIM swaps have been those that have used companies like Coinbase. Dude, Coinbase is notorious for getting SIM swap victims. But they go through the phone companies. At the Crypto Vigilante, we will be putting out tutorials in the near future on how to be SIM swap resistant. So if you're a subscriber, stay tuned for that. Yeah, people need that. So Alex, anything else you want to share with us?
Not really. I mean, in a couple of months, we are going to add the fiat ramps. We are very thrilled about them, and the Doodle experiment is going along pretty well. I think we'll need more apps to support it in the future, etc. But we are having some calls with esports companies, and they really like it, and they're our target. Our target audience, we keep saying it, it's not Bitcoiners. We're not targeting at Bitcoiners. We already are. I think we already served everybody on BSV, so we are expanding out of that. So yeah, we are almost about to get our third funding round, which is pretty exciting, because that means that we will be around for a while more. We will start monetizing this summer, so that's pretty cool too. Maybe we don't even need another funding round in the future. Hopefully. And I don't know, we'll see. We are very happy about what's going on with Bitcoin, and also, people are very happy recently on the spike in price. It's something that we don't particularly pay too much attention, because it doesn't make our business better or worse. Especially if you use Duros or whatever. One Duro is one Duro. It doesn't matter if the market goes up or goes down. So I don't know. We're very happy, to be honest. I think we are. I think it's inevitable that something that we are building, that it becomes the next big thing. Maybe it's not ours, but I think the concept that we are building with HandCash and the nano payments ecosystem, I think that's something that has to happen, and we would be great if it's us.
Right on. That's awesome. So for any investor watching, I'm pretty sure they might want to jump in on this round. This sounds awesome. Yeah,
we might have another one next year or so, but I don't know.
All right, well, we'll stay tuned to that.
Anyway, feel free to send an email to info@handcash.io. Excuse me. And we can talk about it.
So you're talking to big gaming companies. You mentioned, what was it, EA Sports?
No, esports.
Esports. Okay.
So many esports companies, they are very interested in actually having something like we are offering. And our SDK is very cool, because it abstracts everything from out that's Bitcoin related, and you are only doing nano payments. And people, you don't have to be a Bitcoin developer, or even, for example, the creators of Haste, they are just retired baseball players. They didn't know shit about Bitcoin. They just saw that they could do something cool with the SDK, and they created, one of our most successful apps. And that's pretty cool to see that people with no Bitcoin knowledge at all are building on top of Bitcoin for once.
Awesome. So for any entrepreneur out there watching, what would you recommend for them, like, to start? Where do they start looking?
Sure. If you want to take a look to our documentation on our SDK, just head to handcash.dev and you'll get all the information over there. And if you want to, my company email is apagut@handcash.io, apagut@handcash.io. And if you have any doubt or you want to know more about HandCash, just let me know.
Awesome. Great talking to you today, Alex. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being with us. And y'all, thank you for sticking with us and getting, all of this knowledge about what's possible with Bitcoin's original protocol at scale. This is amazing. So, Alex, thank you for being with us. Really enjoyed talking to you today.
Thank you. Had a great time.
Awesome. Peace, love, anarchy, everyone. Stay tuned. And remember, look in the mirror. You're the most important person in all of Bitcoin. Cheers.